The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cloud, is recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Cloud.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for being here to share your perspectives. As with many of the issues we talk about, I think it's important to look at them in context because many of the issues we face, we don't approach them properly if they aren't in the proper context. Now, the Chair made the comment that the nation is in a climate emergency, and I found that interesting considering that the environment does not stop at our borders. And so it's important that we look at a global environment from a global perspective. And the truth is that the world's demand on energy is growing. That's actually a good thing. That's people coming out of poverty. That's people being able to heat their homes for the first time or find mobility. The question then becomes, who will meet that demand? And I am under the belief that it's better for U.S. companies to meet that demand than nations certainly that are adversarial to us. We began to see this as we made a transition from an energy dominant to or energy dependent to an energy dominant nation in the last few years. That led to us having the strength at the negotiating table for better trade deals, for even Middle East peace deals. And when we're talking about the environment, it's important to note that war is bad for the environment. It's bad for the human condition, but it's also bad for the environment. And so the answer then, what we see when we look at U.S. companies and U.S. industry versus industry in other nations is that by and large, while we have room to improve with every single generation, technology should advance, we should get better, that U.S. companies are doing this better than most of the world. And so the answer really here should be, let's look at U.S. exports, let's look at us having a larger share of the world's energy production, and then let's look at what we can do, because the truth is, the greatest reduction in carbon emissions right now has been led by the U.S. oil and gas industry. And so we can look at new technologies. We all want clean air and water. There's new technologies that are coming to bear even in the oil and gas industry with carbon capture and the like. So this really should be an all-encompassing discussion. We want clean air and water for our communities. We want people to thrive and prosper, but we do need to look at that. And just to put it in context, you know, there's almost a move, especially with the extreme interpretations of the Green New Deal, to have us, in a sense, run back from the industrial age, as if that was a bad thing. But the truth is it was a good thing. It had some, like every advancement in technology, cost benefits. You know, there were some costs, there were some benefits. We should look at the costs and figure out, like I said, with the next generation, how to improve. But the truth is that this is the life expectancy over the last bit. And so you can see the U.S. leads the world, but we have been improving with each generation. The thing we don't need to do is to draw back from that. Right now, this is U.S. access to electricity versus the rest of the world. The U.S. virtually almost 100%. Now, if people can't afford it, then that's different. And what we've seen over the last few months is an effort to undermine energy production in the United States. And so we have inflation going up, we have costs going up, and that puts a disproportionate burden on the disadvantaged. What we need to do is get back to policies that bring access, reduced costs to communities, so people can afford their energy and have good jobs. And we can look to companies, and we should hold bad companies and bad actors accountable. For sure we should. But there's a broader perspective to be brought to this. I think it's important to point out too, and maybe Mr. Mitchell, do you know the administration, when we talk about green energy, we have to talk rare earth minerals. Every discussion needs to start with that. Is the administration looking to domestically source the minerals that are needed for a transition? Do you know, are you aware? I wish we had an administration official here to ask, but you're the closest we have so far. So
no, sir, I will not speak on that.
I'm sorry?
I say no, sir, I do not know the answer to that.
You don't know? Okay. Right now, the U.S. is reliant 100% on rare earth minerals from other countries. And so the leading producer of rare earth minerals right now is China. And so we need to strongly consider, as we look at this, if the world's a better place with the U.S. being a dominant producer of energy or China being the predominant producer and holder of U.S. energy exports and resources. So, you know, if we're going to have a discussion on green energy, it has to start with us having U.S. access to rare earth minerals. And until we're willing to have that discussion, we need to continue along the course that has led to relative peace and prosperity for American families. Thank you. Now yield back.